Hello, friends. Let's take a look at Ethereum together. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode. I'm Rocky Outcrop, youtube.com/Rocky Outcrop. Share it with your friends. I know you want it because this is the best place for technical analysis in the world. Gosh darn it. So, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is a 15-minute time frame. No business being on that whatsoever. Okay, so I was kind of feeling a little bit cautious about things over the weekend when I was looking at the price action, coming down below the 21 EMA, coming down below the 236 moving at Fibonacci retracement point. And actually looking like it closed below these things. Look, we got a close. Here's the 24-hour time frame. A close below the 393 area, wherever that is. Then an open up above it, but we actually then closed above it again thereafter. So hey, that kind of short-lived. Then the next day, trials and tribulations on Sunday. Back down here, living in around that area, closing out below it. Today we're up above it. Okay, gravy, but this is still kind of the cautious then tail. Now, of course, you're able to manage your risk fairly easily. If you want to know more about risk management, then watch the second half of the Bitcoin episode that's come out today. Highly recommend you watch the whole of the Bitcoin episode anyhow, because it's good stuff. Share it with your friends, hit that subscribe button, get that value from the videos, improve your trading, become a profitable, consistent trader, and win at life. But so start that process by hitting the subscribe button. But cool. That still remains the case. This cautious sort of story that we're looking at, and will we see the prices moving beyond these areas? Now, looking at this here, you could make the case for various things, such as this low here that we saw the other day, then at 387, having come in with a large degree of hidden bullish divergence. Potentially, should we see the prices moving back up above the 440 zone there where the previous highs were. For instance, confirming this as a proper local low as part of a sort of stair-stepping process towards the top side, and looking again as well as saying, well, are we actually doing that at that point, at that juncture, without any bearish divergence? Sure, or just taking profit on your trade. You've probably got a pretty good one, and you're probably happy enough to take profit at that point anyway, if you are actually longing it from these areas. Pardon me, of course, right? And that's still an option, whatever. By the way, if you're watching these episodes, please don't put a comment down below and say, prices now, is it too late to buy in? Because I know what your mentality is, if that's the question you're asking. Your mentality is not that of a trader. You're asking somebody who's so explicit in their episodes about being a trader and helping people become better traders. And that question is so obviously lacking in the necessary context, such as would it be too late to then do this for a sort of say a $20 move towards the top side, taking profit at this point here, having already gotten at this point here, with managing my risk this way, yada yada. You're talking about investing in something for the long term, and just bear in mind that these episodes, while they are good for the long term and very good educationally, that really the long term in terms of us is looking doesn't matter, right? In fact, actually, these episodes are really good for the long term as well. But I'm not going to advise you. Basically, my point is, I'm not going to advise you. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not pretending to be a financial advisor on the show. Go search YouTube for I am a financial advisor or whatever. Look up those episodes, watch what that guy has to say, ask him that question, and he'll happily give you financial advice. All I can really say is the technicals and where we've come from and where we're potentially going, and it's up to you to do your own trading, right? Okay, so just so you know. Right, yeah, and that's what I'm looking at between these two areas at the moment. Now, of course, if we were to come in for a lower high, there's a couple of key places as opposed to look to for that. First off, are we going up above $417 and getting higher than this little inflection zone over here on the 19th and 20th of August, and perhaps coming up and being able to put in what could be, a decent sort of turnaround in this short term bearish sort of downward structure, or not? Right? Failing to do so would to dictate a number of things, such as what you could argue to be the pattern that we're in at the minute, if you're okay with that. So say you've got this downward sloping line here, which could form the top of a number of different types of patterns. For instance, wedges, channels, whatever. This is just one line. Obviously, what determines the overall shape of the thing is where you would stick in the other line. Now, say you were just to stick it in parallel to the one up above. I probably should have gone copy paste or whatever, so I didn't get the angles wrong, but you get the point. You'd be looking at that and saying that is a channel. Of course, if you're looking down at this thing here in a different way, say you were to have drawn it something like that, like this. That could be a descending triangle, that you're looking at. That's probably too low for that one. Depends on how things all go. We talk about the gestalt nature of these things all the time, and what we're really interested in at the minute isn't actually a downward sloping line over here. Instead, we're looking at the horizontals and saying, are we going to be closing below, and the EMA here of the 21 EMA, are we going to be closing below this 21 EMA on this, and kind of getting a bit bearish on things and continuing on the way down, especially having then once again been rejected from the 400 odd area, or indeed are we actually finding our feet here at the 236, having put in a potentially hidden bullish, i.e. continuation, as in more towards the top side, divergence low here, which is higher than the previous low, but yet lower on the oscillators down below. Is that what we're doing or not? Because currently, that's what maybe is going to resolve the answer to the question from previously, which is with this bearishly divergent top here, where we had a high here, followed by another high, which was actually lower than it on the oscillators. Let me just not say this wrongly. Yeah, so you can see lower, between the highs on the oscillators down below, we've got a bearishly divergent top. Is that going to play out with any more detrimental effect than what we've already seen happen at this point here? Because this coming down towards the 21 EMA was a fairly obvious resolution towards that bearish divergence. Fair enough? Agreed? Okay. So moving up above this trend line, so to speak, could be quite good. Bearing in mind, though, that of course, there's plenty of other things to be looking at as well. If we just kind of get zoomed on in here, you can see that there's this orangey sort of rusty line coming up here, and we've just gone above it too. Now, what was that? That was just this previous sort of symmetrical triangle extended out the way here to show where the previous resistance was. And what that kind of actually also correlates to or translates to is simply just accounting for the fact that we're stepping towards the top side and got a higher low overall on the go here, with this one overall. So that's where that lines up with. Maybe that is would have been the better angle for the lower side of this symmetrical triangle. And then what you've got though is a ton of wicks outside of that area. So just bear that context in mind again as well. That wicks outside of this area, as you can see up above, currently where we are not going to be enough to say anything on. Jumping down towards the lower time frames, then how are we looking on this front? And just like as we spoke about in Bitcoin, that you can see over here between this high and this high, which is a lower high, of course, forming a part of a downward trend, as you can see, denoted by this downward sloping yellow trend line, which will just match up with these previous two highs that we've got, the current one and the previous one. This proper high over here, that actually between this area and this area is convergent in terms of the RSI. In terms of stochastics, you've got this coming up higher than it. In terms of the DMI, you've got it going down lower than it did here, so that's kind of convergent, right? Is it? Yeah. And the MACD the same way. But looking at this though and saying that actually on this downward trend here, between this high and the most recent high, as we come up towards this area where we currently find ourselves, then we've got a bit of the old hidden bullish divergence. By the way, out of curiosity, if you had drawn this between these two over here, and then had a line going down here, just so then you'd say that this was a potential, for looking at a fallen wedge. So get a bit, a fallen wedge here, which is a bullish pattern, and that this could be, breaking out from it. In which case, you'd have said that the fake out zone, this is what we always do on the channel, we talk about fake out zones, would be taking you up as high as that, with of course the potential for just having a turnaround at the 50 simple moving average, as we've seen so far. So looking at this zone here, I wouldn't get too super excited until you see the prices closing up above 416,000. I'd get a bit excited before then, believe me. But anyway, that's that towards the top side. Towards the lower side, looking at where this rusty line is, 390, where the 236 Fibonacci is, in various places, like over here, you've got it at 395. There's a massive 236 over there. And then on the big old, I can't even be bothered. And then and here you have it at 236 coming in there, if you were to move towards the downside from our most recent highs at 361. And that would be perhaps, a pretty greedy, or not necessarily greedy, but a pretty nice and tasty profit taking target if you were to be shorting that towards the downside, just in terms of the most shallowest retrace, where you could look towards this pitchfork over here at 387 and say, if we moved below this median line of the pitchfork in the background that we spoke about in the past, recent past, just the other day in those episodes, really, you ought to like and subscribe. You really ought to, because this is the bee's knees, then of course that would be quite bearish in terms of maybe perhaps then having a subsequent movement towards the downside. I'm not going to go into detail. Watch the previous episode for Ethereum. There'll actually be a playlist link here as I'm in the episode just up above my head if you want to hit that one, and you can then watch the previous episodes, enjoy them, take away a heck of a lot of value from them, because it explains everything about where we could be going as well, because the situation hasn't really changed, and what I've spoken about today has been all of that. And if you want to actually watch those previous episodes, you'll notice that there's this zone in the background, and that zone is another thing I've not really spoken about today. But where's the top side of it? It's coming in at that about 416 area. The lower side of it's coming in at about that 406 407 area, where you can see, we've come up to so far, wicked off a couple of times, yada yada. That zone in there is obviously a crucial one. You want to know more about it, then watch that previous video, hit like on both of them, hit subscribe to the channel. Would really appreciate it. Join the Discord if you want. If you want to support the channel as well by trading across, various exchanges and stuff like that, you can. And I tend to ask for exclusive benefits for Rocky Outcrop competitions when I get these things, but it's all good. Just you do you. I'll catch you next episode, but tell your friends about this. You really should. YouTube.com/Rocky Outcrop. It's the place to be, honestly. See you next time. Thanks for joining me. Oh, by the way, as you can tell, I've skipped talking about Ethereum versus Bitcoin today. Oops. Oh well. You can take what I've said from the dollar episode, try and apply it to this one. Learn. That can be your homework. Actually, here you go, an assignment for you. An assignment. Nice. Do your own Ethereum Bitcoin technical analysis. Join the Discord. Tell me what you see on that chart. I'd like to hear about it. So would everybody else there. Let me know. Catch you next time. I've been Rocky Outcrop. I'll be back again tomorrow.